So welcome everybody to the Biz on Fire podcast, and I have the amazing Ellie McKay with me, here to share her nuggets on business, her journey to success and where she is now. And I've been watching you quite closely, Ellie, and I've seen that you've had some real momentum lately, getting out there, speaking with some amazing people as well, and just being seen and being visible. So over to you, Ellie. I just want to really know, first of all, your journey and to where you are now and what it is you do in business along the way.
Oh, well, thank you for having me, Gemma. Great to be here. My name's Ellie McKay, along with my husband Mark and our other business partner. We run Combined Property. So we set up the business about 2.5 years ago. But to give you a little bit of background, we first got into property back in 2006. We bought an off-plan new build development. We were sold the dream, get rich quick. Although to be fair, we were asking for trouble because without exaggeration, we literally sat there Googling get rich quick schemes. And it was a toss up between stocks and shares or property. Property won, and we got quite heavily involved. I was only very early 20s at the time. I was on, 22 grand a year, something like that. And we got quite heavily into debt for this property purchase. And it was back in the days where you could buy and then refinance in the same day and pull all your money out and stuff like that. So it would have been a great time to be doing property. Sadly, our experience wasn't that great. So we bought this property in 2006. The development was then flooded. It was a great floods at Sheffield. So it didn't actually complete. Instead of it completing in 2008, it didn't actually finish until 2010. So we were smack bang in the middle of the recession. And a property that we bought for 125 grand was suddenly worth like 60 to 65. So for us at the time, that was a lot of money. We had to come up with a deficit. I think we had 40 grand to come up with in a relatively short space of time. It wasn't an option to walk away. We were tied in with airtight legal contracts, and we'd already put in a significant amount of money up until that point. So we managed to do it somehow. We were on the beans and toast diet for quite a while, low-fat super noodles and what have you, and that was our life for quite a long time. And if I'm being perfectly honest, I had pretty much a complete nervous breakdown. The stress was pretty horrendous. The company we were dealing with were sort of threatening to come after our house and our assets, which were literally just a car each. We didn't have much. And it really scarred me, if I'm being honest. I was very risk averse after that. Yeah. And I was quite happy to sort of retreat back to the comfort and security that a 9-to-5 job has to offer, knowing exactly what I was going to get paid. I had no interest in business or entrepreneurship or anything like that. So it was a very challenging time. My husband, Mark, he kind of dusted himself down and got back on with it pretty quickly. And in 2010, he started his electrical business with his business partner. And I suppose gradually over the years, I started seeing the enthusiasm, it was just a different kind of enthusiasm. I don't know if any of your listeners will relate to this, but on a Monday morning, my alarm's going off and I'm just thinking, oh my God, I've got to get up. Whereas Mark's kind of leaping out of bed with a spring in his step. I was seeing him getting the laptop out in an evening and I'm thinking like, surely you shouldn't have to work in an evening. He said, well, it's not work. It's my business. It's my passion. I love it. I'm just like, but you're missing Real Housewives of Cheshire. Like, I don't understand what's happening here. And yeah, I suppose as the years progressed and that became more of a distant memory, I started to have a little bit of, prior to that, I'd had quite a high-powered sales job. At one point, I had hundreds of staff working underneath me. I worked in the double glazing sector. It was all quite hustle bustle. And I kind of missed the adrenaline that came from that. And I kind of missed being a high achiever because I'd had quite sort of, not mundane jobs, but I was just in very regular, stereotypical jobs after that. I was a careers advisor. I worked in recruitment. I worked in welfare to work. I worked in prisons and stuff like that. I actually got made redundant when I was on maternity leave. And it was just a blessing in disguise. I was at rock bottom. Our electrical business in 2016 nearly lost everything. A national contractor went under, owing us a significant amount of money, and it came down to the wire whether or not we could keep trading. And that kind of coincided when I was pregnant with our second child, Isabella, had a really traumatic pregnancy. I was in and out of hospital, a lot of complications. And that period of our life was just so stressful. And we kind of had, there was a few other things that had happened in the meantime, notwithstanding having postnatal depression, and then finding out when my husband was due for the snip on the Monday that we were pregnant with our third little treasure on the Friday before. And it just felt like it was one thing after another. But we kind of had a bit of a defining moment. And in 2016, when we were on the cusp of losing everything, we had a chat, and it was a case of, are we going to give up? Because in a lot of ways, that was a sensible thing to do. We felt like we were at rock bottom, the stress and pressure in our family, unless anyone's kind of experienced that firsthand, it's very difficult to articulate how stressful that actually is. When you're waking up in the middle of the night having heart palpitations and stuff like that. And Mark and his business partner, they were easily clearing 60, 70 grand a year as sole traders. It wasn't too shabby for the North. I know in London that's nothing, but it's a decent life by most people's standards. And it really was a defining moment. We just thought, you know what, there's just no fucking way we have been through all of this stress and all of this hardship not to succeed. And our definition of success really started to change. And they went on to rebuild the electrical business. But I'm going from back-to-back pregnancies. And then when I got made redundant, it was a bit of law of attraction, I believe. All the sort of the path started to light up. I started following some property guys in Glasgow that I've ended up working closely with for the last couple of years. They mentor me and coach me. They've been absolutely phenomenal, and started sort of tapping into a bit of mindset and what could be achieved. And I literally was at rock bottom when I walked in those doors to do the property training, which was almost 3 years ago now. I remember standing in front of the room, having to talk in front of 15 people and having really bad anxiety and physically shaking. And it was horrendous. And all I can explain it as is there was just some sort of inner grit, so some sort of inner determination. I had no confidence, but I had some sort of internal belief that I could do it, and that I was capable of more. And I think it was very much, although I didn't see it like that at the time, it was very much face the fear and do it anyway. And within 4 days of doing our property training, we bought 2 properties with no money down, obviously using some people's money, but it wasn't our money. And we purchased the 2 properties, and I suppose that gave me a bit of belief. And that was that's how the journey started, I feel like.
Yeah. You've touched on some really important things there. And I think for the listeners, a lot of people can relate to some of your journey there. For example, just talking into, shit happening and going wrong. And, when you just feel like you're climbing that mountain, but as much as you climb, you fall back down, and you feel like you're getting nowhere. What do you think was that thing that just kept you going? To do that, because some people, it gets to that point where you go, I can't fucking do this anymore. Like you said, what was that thing that made you go, no, we need to just do this and change your outlook upon it?
I suppose, there's been days where it's been a real struggle for me to get out of bed. I've been to some really dark places, and this is why the mindset is so important. But if I'm being honest, I'm like a cockroach that refuses to die, and I just will not give up. And we're nowhere near where we want to be. Not just when I say in terms of success, by the way, when you hear me talking about success, I don't mean money in the bank. I really mean our mindset, our lifestyle, spiritually, emotionally, where I just see, and perhaps everyone sees it like this, but although other people look at what we've achieved and perhaps put us on a pedestal, for me, we're just laying the foundations. But I don't know, this is perhaps a bit controversial. I don't know if it's necessarily trainable, because look at COVID. No one saw this coming. In business, you are going to get thrown so many curveballs. And of course, the more experience you get, the more educated that you get. Of course, you're going to mitigate that risk, and you're going to get the right people in your team that can help and support and advise you, and you can do all of that kind of stuff. But like I say, then you can have something like COVID that happens. You can prepare for a recession. A lot of businesses do prepare for recessions. We were preparing for a recession. But realistically, who's prepared for COVID? And as a business owner, you do have to be able to pivot and adapt and look for solutions to problems and not get defeated by problems. Because ultimately, if you're only thriving when the times are good, it isn't sustainable. And I don't know if this is PC to say this, but I don't think everyone's got the backbone for business. Because it's bloody tough. Even when things are going well, it's tough. It's just an emotional roller coaster.
Yeah.
So I definitely don't think this life is for everyone, but mindset has been the most singular thing and you can ask my husband Mark that, and it definitely hasn't been for him. As much as he buys into the personal development and mindset, he's very emotionally stable, whereas I needed it. I'm very emotionally reactive. I've struggled with depression for a lot of years. I'm the one that was on heavy duty medication that I've gradually sort of weaned myself off over the last few years. And mindset and being around, I thrive on, we were talking a little bit just before we went on camera, I thrive on being around people that are further down the path I want to travel. I like hearing how they talk. I like to be around high energy. I thrive off that.
Yeah, no, I think that's key. Absolutely. Like, talking into, is this for everybody? It's like I work with a lot of business owners, and I can see, for me, the biggest thing is the action taking, just like taking something, not knowing how you're going to do it, but not giving a shit and just going, I'm going to do it anyway. Like literally, yeah. I'm just going to jump and build my wings on the way down, because I see two sides. I see either you just move forward and you try and you try and you try and you do that, you're up and down, or you wait for this perfect moment to then implement, but by then it's too fucking late.
Exactly.
And you go, that was the right time, but you're waiting for perfection, and I believe it never exists.
Like, absolutely, no, it doesn't.
It never exists at all. And then talking into about that, being around people who inspire you, like, I think relationships are key to everything, and I find that a lot of business owners sometimes neglect that side of the whole journey. And it's not just relationships with people that inspire you or who you can model or who you can take you forward, which are key. It's those relationships of just the people that you surround yourself in every single day. And what is that? You know what I mean? People create these businesses and then they fill it with people they don't like.
Yeah. It's crazy, because in business, the biggest challenges you tend to face, putting aside global pandemics, it tends to be, it's all around people. I mentioned actually in the podcast I did with Stephen, as soon as you get one part of the puzzle correct with your business, then no sooner do you need to replace another part. And this is, when I listen back to previous podcasts I've done, they get out of date so quickly. For example, I referenced on the last podcast about how we're just working with this new project manager and the architect, and we've teamed up, and this is going to be great. And like, that is not, that's out of date information. Now I'm giving you a little bit of a tangent here, but you're 100% right, because having the right people in your team at every aspect, whether it's your accounting, your builder, the people you surround yourself with, your family, your friends, what you allow into your head on a day-to-day basis is absolutely key. And it's also changeable, because people are changeable. And when I first got into the property and personal development, and you almost, like, there was almost an air of arrogance about me. I was just like, if people haven't read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, or whatever, Think and Grow Rich, I'm like, oh, you just don't get it. And I suppose there was a bit of ego involved there, and also realizing that I'm the one that's changed in these relationships. Like, I could have been friends with somebody for years, and then suddenly I'm talking about mindset, and I'm talking about this, and I'm not interested in talking about negative.
Like, where's this come from? Yeah.
They're like, hang on, Ellie, like, we just like to come around for a goss and have a couple of glasses of wine. What's going on? So I am quite mindful of that. But yeah, you are right. I think they're the two most important things for me: relationships and mindset. 100%.
Yeah, yeah. And going back to mindset, and just going back to how you said, obviously, over the years, um, your mental health has been an issue with you, the depression and things. What was the thing that enabled you to get out of that, to get beyond going back into that cycle?
You know what? If I'm being honest, I wouldn't say I am out of that. I would say it's a continual battle.
Right.
It's just a battle that I will keep fighting until I die. Who knows where it'll end up if I can evolve emotionally to the point where it's never a struggle. I just refuse to lay down the gauntlet. That's the difference. And I get up every morning, fucking hate exercise. I do a hit workout every morning. I can't stand it. But also know if I don't, it does start to affect my mental health. I'm mindful who I listen to. I'm into personal development. I'm in mastermind groups. I'm giving myself all the tools that I can. I'm building a strong support network around me. I'm building a team. I'm creating the sort of energy and values in our business that, and I like to lead people from the front and be honest and open about the struggles that are along the way, because I think sometimes, there are people that look up to me. I get a lot of really lovely messages from people on social media who say that they find my content inspiring and things. So I feel like I've got an obligation to share the good, the bad, and the ugly, because there's so many influencers, I hate that word, out there that are just far more evolved than I am in terms of the mindset. So sometimes that can almost be a step too far for people from where they're at. And it's quite nice to have someone saying, yeah, look, I still have days like that. I still struggle. Some days for no reason, my anxiety will flare up. But this is what I do. This is how I manage it. And this allows me to continue to put one step in front of the other. And also, because at the start, it was just a case of putting one foot in front of the other. Whereas now on my bad days, there is still growth. We are still pushing forward.
Yeah.
And it's about setting your life up in a way that can mitigate those bad days, but also almost embrace them. When I say embrace them, acknowledge that they're going to be there and continue to push forward, not just to accept that it's okay not to be okay, because it's not okay, is it? When I'm feeling in that state, that reflects on my relationship with my husband, that reflects on my relationship with the staff, that reflects on my relationship with the children. So I don't think I've got all the answers, but certainly if I look at where I was a couple of years ago compared to now, those days are very infrequent. And people perhaps don't like the tough love. I'm a bit more David Goggins and Tony Robbins, I suppose,
Yeah.
although there's loads of golden nuggets from both of them. But there's so many excuses, valid excuses, why we're all going to fail, why we can stay in bed that extra hour, why we can give up the hit workout, why we don't need to go out running when it's raining, we can do it tomorrow. Ultimately, you're looking in that mirror and you're 100% accountable for your own actions. And that's a very unpopular belief, but I believe that we're all exactly where we deserve to be in life. And yet there are a few exceptions. People always pipe up when you say that, and that there's some terrible atrocities that go on in the world, and I'm not saying people are responsible for that.
Yeah.
But for the majority of people, I do believe we're exactly where we're meant to be. I believe we earn the amount of money that we deserve to earn. I believe our bodies reflect the amount of effort that we're putting in, we're putting in our mouth, and no one's coming to save us.
That's so true. And I that's a major thing of what I teach people upon, is that first thing, full responsibility for every aspect of your life, like everything that's gone shit or everything that's going great, like taking that with both hands and looking and going, where's my lessons, where's my learns, and also congratulating yourself when you do things that are great as well, because I think as an entrepreneur, we're always looking at the future and what's ahead and what's next, that sometimes to give ourselves that recognition for the achievements we've had and give a pat on the back sometimes doesn't happen.
That's a really tough one, actually, and it's one that Mark and I kind of differ on a little bit. Very interesting. We were just having this conversation this morning. Mark likes to, and I get it, and we do celebrate our wins to the extent. So I'm not saying I don't do that, but for me, yeah, we do a lot of stuff well, but there's also a lot of stuff we still need to improve and hone. And we want to provide a ROI service. I'm always striving for excellence, not perfection, because that doesn't exist. But I'm always striving for excellence. Whereas, so for me, and it's not in a negative way, but I focus on the things that we need to address and the gaps in our business. But sometimes Mark sees that as negative. He's like, but we're actually doing great. We've got this on, we've got that on, and our business is actually in a really healthy position right now. And I'm like, I kind of, if I'm, this is the sort of thing I'm working with coaches with, my emotional mastery, because I'm kind of like, I'm just kicking off. Like, I was just like, what's wrong with your limited thinking? Like, why are you accepting this mediocrity? Like your values aren't in line with mine. I'm striving for so much more. And he has to kind of have a word with me, and then I pipe back down, and then we start to talk through those areas. But it's difficult because as entrepreneurs, I suppose it's like I hold myself to such a high standard that unless I'm living my best life, I'm annoyed with myself.
Yeah.
And I don't see that as a bad thing, because I mean, perhaps other people won't share this view, but I said to Mark, you need to get annoyed with yourself more, because, you have had 2 days this week where you've not got up at 5, or if you're not annoyed with yourself for breaking your own rules, then what sort of standard are you setting for yourself?
Yeah. That just like me and Stephen, it makes me laugh, that because he, like, a little bit in our relationship, he's like what I call him, the absolute Tasmanian devil. So like he creates havoc in our businesses.
That's me.
Like we'll have an idea and we're doing something, he'll come in and he's like, no, we need to now do this, and he pivots and he changes things all the time, but he doesn't want to know like how that's going to happen. He's just so forward facing, like we just need to be here, but I don't give a shit about all the stuff that needs to happen to get us there.
Yeah, that's Mark and I.
Yeah, then it's me going, wow, hang on, like, do you understand there's this yeah, all of this stuff.
Oh, uncanny.
Yeah. So like we have that similar type of thing that goes on, but like you said there about holding yourself accountable to, if you are going to slack on things, we do that with one another, exactly like you know what I mean? Like, it's that case of, why didn't you do that? Why haven't you done that? Why are you letting that slip there? Because as much as we have habits and we put these in our lives, so Stephen and I get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and we train. And if that slips back, there's days when we wake up and we don't want to fucking get out of bed. You know what I mean? You have to just literally pull yourself out and go, no, this is what I do. And it's about owning that shit, isn't it? It's not like a punishment of, oh, I'm doing this. It's like, no, this is me. This is what I do. And I think once you're able to own it, it becomes easier. But at the same time, it's very easy in any aspect of your life to easily slip back into what's comfortable and what is easy as well. So what do you feel is the thing that enables you to not slip back? What is that?
I suppose discipline, gradually learning discipline, and making it, when you make a decision, is it bringing you closer towards your goal or further away from your goal? And I suppose there is that accountability there. And it's just so interesting hearing you talk about the relationship with Stephen, because it's literally verbatim the conversations we have. I will come in with some great high level idea. I'm like, we need to be doing this. I've seen this person doing that. I've got inspiration. We can do this. Or we're going to make X amount. And Mark's just like, have you got any idea the level of work that's involved in that? Do you have any idea what my workload is at the minute? Do you have any idea how many projects we've got on the go? And I'm like, yeah, we've got however many, you've got a project manager now and a projects director. He's like, you've got no clue, because he's more operational than I am. So it is great having someone with such opposing skill sets. I think we do complement each other well, although we're constantly honing how we communicate and things like that, which I think you have to do, don't you? I think that the downside of working with your partner is sometimes you can speak to them how you wouldn't necessarily speak to an employee. Or somebody who's just not in your own family. You can get away with a bit more. So I suppose it's establishing those boundaries as well. But yeah, I mean, I've always had, again, is this a trainable thing? I've always had, from age 16, 17, when I moved out of home, my life was kind of going to rat shit. I was hanging around with the wrong people. I'd dropped out of school. I was like going around and drinking at people's houses through the day, drinking White Lightning and stuff like that. And I could see what was happening. I knew somebody that had had an overdose and died, although I'd never got involved with heroin or anything like that. Like, people that I was hanging about with were going down that road, and I managed to drag myself away from that. And I went and moved in Edinburgh. I just got a job doing telesales, and I just had enough about me to know that I always took things to the limit. And then I thought, nah, I'm worth more than this.
What was that thing though that enabled you to go look outside of that? Because when you're in it, sometimes you can't see the woods for the trees. You know, like if your peer group's doing that stuff and that's the life that you see. What was it that made you go, nah, I need to pull away, I need to change?
I don't know how to articulate it other than just, for somebody who's struggled with confidence as much as I have, it's quite ironic how much self-belief I have as well.
Yeah.
Like, I know I'm capable of great things. And for me, that's not property, that's supporting and helping as many people as I can. And it's not all fully figured out, and it's not necessarily, well, it isn't something I want to monetize. We're going to make our millions through the property side of it. And because this stuff all, it fascinates me, and I haven't got all the answers. I just knew that my life would have went to rat shit if I'd have stayed in that situation.
Yeah.
And every time things have happened to us, and we've had many, many blows. If I told you all of them, it'd be like Oprah. And I know a lot of people have had hardships. And I don't necessarily think you need to have experienced hardships to do well in business, but it certainly seems to be a common thread for a lot of entrepreneurs. But yeah, I have it. I suppose it's that same inner grit that made me walk into that property training 2 stone heavier than I am now, postnatal depression, anxiety, really, really struggling. And I basically just blew a bomb up in my whole life. I mean, people thought we were mad. But you get into property? What about Brexit? What about this? These courses are a scam. Those who know do, they don't teach. We had all of it. You can learn it all on YouTube. You paid how much for it, and now you've joined a high-level mastermind. Fucking hell, and what return do you get on that? I'm like, it's unquantifiable what I get back from that, because I'm a completely different person.
You know,
so
you said that, sorry to cut in there, Ellie, like
no,
that whole, the mastermind, the thing that you can't, it's the intangible things that you can't say, well, that actually gave me this in a monetary term, but it's an inside knowing, isn't it, of like, the return on investment in that, like you said yourself, like being a completely different person, is just mad. And I think that's a huge, for me, gem to success, that being able to understand when something has impacted you and what that is.
Yeah, 100%. And it's we're talking about the unquantifiable. One of the main things for me is I'm a far better mum. You know, I'm a far better wife. I'm trying to be a better friend. It is probably one of the things I need to work on a bit more, because, you know, when you're time poor, things slip. But it's constantly trying to level up. So I suppose it's twofold, because had I not started getting back into personal development and training and getting into that space, would that spark have fully ignited? It's quite difficult when everyone in your life doesn't believe in you as well. You know, 10 years of not really doing a great deal. You really have to prove people wrong. I find that quite motivational. I know you're not meant to, but I love proving people wrong and just being like, fuck you. These people now, so many of them, oh, I always knew you could do it. I had every faith in you and all of this kind of stuff. And they want to tell me a bit more about this property. And, you know, most of them want to invest with us now. But our minimum criteria went up, so they've missed the boat.
Yeah, you're right.
You have to be open to change, and to be open to change, you have to be willing to look yourself in the mirror. I look myself in the mirror, and I don't know if you know the Darren Hardy story, I refer to this quite a lot because there are certain things that were quite profound for me. And the Darren Hardy story was one of them. And he'd went to his mentor, which was a guy called Jim Rohn, and he literally wrote a 40 double-sided page list of his favorite, like his ideal woman, the attributes she would have, the sort of culture she'd be from, her looks, her personality, like everything. It was mega detailed. And he asked his mentor Jim, how do I get a woman like this into my life? And Jim said to him, no, Darren, you're asking the wrong question. It's who do I need to become to be worthy of a woman like that? And he went and reverse engineered that and thought, what would a woman like that want? And he went to work on himself and developing those attributes. And in proper law of attraction style, found his wife, and they've been happily married ever since. And I love that because I looked in the mirror and I thought, who the fuck would want to do business with me? Well, what do I need to do? Become worthy of being so especially when people are investing their money with you, who do I need to become? And one of the things was I needed to start putting myself out there. I needed to start getting people to like, know, and trust me. Well, for somebody that's got no confidence and is struggling with mental health, that's not easy. And this is one of the reasons I do like to talk into it, because there's a lot of people, even if they've not got depression or mental health issues, they just severely lack confidence. And they look at someone like myself now, who's fairly confident and quite prolific on social media, and you almost get that it's all right for you. And it's like, no, it wasn't. Like when I used to do videos for LinkedIn, and I didn't have a LinkedIn live feature, I used to just record like 90 takes for a 2-minute video, and it was tough. It was really tough. But it's like you say, it's the start now, get perfect later. And you can never improve on what you're doing if you don't get started. And there's no point in going, yeah, I'm a huge advocate of personal development, of masterminds, of training. Certain training providers, obviously, you've got to do your due diligence. But I also know that 80% of the people that attend these courses and things, which is probably why they get such a bad rep, they do fuck all with it.
Yeah, no action.
No action. If you don't, people are like, what's the magic bullet? Ellie, tell me how you got to where you're at. And it's like, okay, yeah, you need to work your mindset, you need to educate yourself, but you have to do the fucking work. Like, your training provider is not going to do that for you. Your mentor is not going to do that for you.
Yeah.
You have to go out and create opportunities. Oh, I don't know if I'm bothered about public speaking. Well, I'm not. I hate it. I still get heart palpitations, and it's horrible. Some people might just naturally love that kind of stuff. I hate it, but you could. I was just saying to Nick James, who's one of my mentors, I was like, you could say to me now, come and speak at Expert Empires in a fictitious world where events were still happening. And I would just say, yes, absolutely, and figure it out later. And it's just about leveling up. Whereas people want you to tell them little breadcrumbs that are just like, oh, if you just do this and maybe download this app and
and you skirt around it all.
You too can have a whatever figure business. And it's
that for me there, Ellie, what you said there is what I see all the time. And I see people who come and they implement and they take action and they'll do whatever it takes. Like, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm going to give it a go. And then I see other people who expect like this fucking magic pill. Like, you come to a session and you don't need to put the hard work in, but everything's going to magically just fall into place. And then when it doesn't, it's the not looking inside and going, well, I didn't actually put the work in. It's the external excuses and the blame that goes on there, which is, for me, is crazy, because it's a case of if you want something, you got to work. If you want a nice body, you've got to go to the gym and you've got to sweat. You've got to put hours in. You know what I mean? You've got to feel the pain. You've got to feel the discomfort.
Yeah, and you've got to be consistent as well. And I mean, it's that whole thing. You don't just hire a PT. Doesn't matter if your PT costs £10 an hour, £100 an hour. You have to do the work. And you have to be consistent with it, because doing it and then people say to me, oh, social media doesn't work. It's like, well, we raised £4 million off one platform last year, so don't tell me social media doesn't work. And then you go and look at their feed and they're like, they posted one day, then they had 3 days off, and then they did this, and then they've not done videos, and they've not done this part. They're cherry picking. It's like a pick and mix. They're like, oh, I love that and I love that, but I'm not doing that. And it's like, well, you're asking me what I've done. I'm not a property trainer, but I can give you the blueprint to our success. I've listened to the advice, and I suppose this is why I resonate more with people at a higher level, because I think when people see, it's quite difficult to stand out at the moment. There's a lot of there's a lot of property people out there. So when you are consistent and when you are authentic and you're true to yourself and you don't talk bullshit and you don't lie, then people know who you are. And it's that whole thing as well. It's not who you know, it's not what you know, it's who you know, but it's who knows you. And I say this time and time again, because if people don't know who you are, then how can they do business with you? So yeah, of course you could build up a successful business without social media. And sort of went on a tangent about social media, but I think it's really important. But why would you not use social media? Because you can get to wherever you want to go so much quicker. And whereas my husband Mark, he likes to be behind the scenes, but he doesn't need to be. Like, I'm front of house, I bring the investors in, and then when they want the technical information, I can hand them over to Mark, and it works really well. But pretty much all our investors come from face-to-face events that I've spoken at. And by the way, I don't speak about property, I speak about mindset, because that's my big passion. But I'm constantly seeding, if you like, or sharing the fact that we do property. And at the end of it, you just organically pick up people who like you and want to work with you. So
yeah, the social media side of it, this is an area that in my training, when I work with people, we do look at social media, and there is an aspect dependent on of people getting comfortable with the camera.
mm-hmm.
And I find that the anxiety that some people get just even having to use their own camera and not post it anywhere, just to record themselves, is like, sometimes some people find that really, really a massive struggle. What would you say helped you with that?
Well, a couple of things. I think people can do it at their own pace, because, like, if you look at somebody like Rob Moore, who is the most prolific person I know on social media, he does so many videos every single day. He does lives, he does podcasts, he does everything across all platforms. If you listen to him, he didn't start off doing that. He started off doing one or two a week on one platform, and then it was 1 or 2 a week on every platform, and it's gradually built up. Because if someone's not done social media before and they start posting 5 times a day, they're just going to spam their audience. So you can build it up gradually. And like for me, if you're not familiar with the camera and you don't want to go from sort of 0 to 100, just start off with some written copy. Study what works. You need to put time into it. I obsessed over LinkedIn. I spent hours and hours looking at what was working, not just from people in the property industry, basically market research. What kind of thing do people react to? People don't like to be educated. They don't like to be preached at. They like to be entertained. How do you do that from a business angle? And figuring it all out on the job, seeing which post bombed, which didn't, what times of the day were resonating with people, what kind of people were engaging with my content. Was it just other property investors? Because that's not my avatar. So that might be good for the ego, getting lots of likes, but is that bringing inquiries in? Which of the posts were the ones that we actually converted to money? Because ironically, they're not necessarily the ones that get the highest engagement. And almost it's like mastering a craft and treating it as its own business, and gradually just doing, even if you just start off doing, I think if you're doing any less than a post a day, you're not going to get the compound effect. And then start doing it gradually. Then you can start recording a video like I did, and it might take 90 takes, which is ridiculous. And then you can build up to doing lives, which in a lot of ways are easier, because if you make a mistake, then the camera's rolling, you've just got to roll with it. And whereas something that might have taken you 3 hours will take you, 3 minutes. So, but again, there's tips and tricks. I don't think you can necessarily outsource your personal brand. Certainly not unless you're at a level that's a lot higher, that, when you get to Rob Moore level and you've got a whole social media team, then they can assist, but he's doing the content. So yeah, you can look at what other people are doing, you can build up your confidence gradually, but it goes back to the same thing. You have to do it. If you want what we've had and other people have had, if you want to go out and raise millions of pounds in investor finance, or if you want to promote your business or your product or service, the best way to do that is by building a personal brand, even if it's on your company page, because as we all know, Richard Branson, if you look at his following compared to Virgin's, it's significantly higher. If you look at Elon Musk compared to Tesla, it's significantly higher. People want to know the person behind the business. And to do that, you have to put yourself out there. So no magic bullet, just get comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yeah, totally. You've talked a little bit there. You keep touching on mentors and coaches and things. What do you, with the mentor side of it, why do you think that's so important?
Oh, well, for me, it's, I will always be mentored. Warren Buffett's always been mentored. Bill Gates always been mentored. Elon Musk's always been mentored. To me, there's just always so much more to learn. And those mentors might change. Like we're quite happy to pay for specialism and whatever it is, whether it's systems and automating your business. Mark just joined the mastermind for that because we want specific information. So you find someone that you could resonate with and that you like their language, you like what they're doing, you do your due diligence, and then you do that. I think we're looking at doing the same possibly with like YouTube, and that's like its own. So it's almost treating everything as a bit of a mini business. I'm in 2 high-level masterminds, and one's for property and one's for general business. For me, getting around that energy, that way of thinking, that solution mindset's absolutely integral. That's something that I struggled with a little bit through lockdown because obviously that was taken away, and as much as we all tried to do what we could on Zoom, it's not quite the same. But yeah, I'm just constantly learning and growing, and sometimes it's just the smallest golden nugget, but it's something that I will always do. I mean, to say you don't need a mentor, that sort of insinuates that you know everything. I don't know anyone who knows everything, and the people who I do know that think they know everything they're not people I'm trying to emulate. They're
Yeah, that there, just that little bit when you said even that golden nugget, that nugget you can get, that for me, like I'm exactly the same. I'm always in a mastermind. I put myself around, people who inspire me, people that, and I'm always looking actually in those circles to be the person in that group who knows the least.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, and I think I'll never, like people say to me, why do that? Why travel to these places? Why invest all that money and that time and that energy when you've got all of these things, these businesses and the property portfolios and all of this stuff? Why do it? And for me, like you, it's a part, it's integral. For me, that development never ends. And if I think I'm there and I don't need to know any more, God, I'm going to quickly be in the wrong place.
That 100%, you're completely right, and also it's about what level you want to play at, because there's no question in your success in your current property portfolio, but people are kind of not everyone, but you do get people that are like, aren't you happy with what you've got now? And perhaps they think it's more about money than it actually is. And for me, it's about living my best life. It's seeing how far we can take this, and you might know enough now to maintain your current life, but I'm guessing you guys are pushing in every area. I'm guessing you want to get fitter. I'm guessing you're still working on emotional, spiritual, absolutely everything, because I'm constantly trying to be a better parent. Like I say, I'm just not willing to ever accept where I'm at.
Yeah.
So yeah, you have to continue to learn to be able to continually grow. So yeah, your mentors might change over the years, but for me, being mentored will definitely not change.
Yeah. No, I'm exactly on the same page there. I just think it's a necessity for me. It's something that I'll always have. It won't ever go away.
No, and it's quite interesting because I've only been doing this really a relatively short space of time, but this is a good thing, but the cream always rises to the top, I think, because property is actually quite a small group, reasonably speaking. And like already, I just find I'm gravitating towards certain people and building certain relationships and like connecting with like yourself and Stephen and some of the other fortunate people that I've created, I suppose, in my own network. I just think it doesn't when you're putting your authentic self out there, what's it? It's really cheesy. When you put out the authentic vibe, you get, or the authentic tribe, or something like that. It's cheesy, but it's true. One of the I'm a great believer that your business can only grow at the same extent that you do, which is why my number one priority is always kind of working on myself. And people who don't get that might think that that's a little bit selfish. Um, but for me, the personal development, which mentorship's part of, it is working on myself, and the opportunities that then brings when you're living your best life, when you're leveling up yourself. The people you attract into your life are at a higher level. And I don't mean higher level in terms of net worth, but it could be anything. People that share your mindset, and they might want to be the fittest person, or I just need to be around people that have got goals. I don't need to be around multimillionaires and billionaires, although thankfully I've got a lot of those in my life as well that I can learn business stuff from. But I really struggle to have conversations with people that don't have goals. They're not trying to better themselves in any way. They are just happy with the status quo, whatever that is. They're not trying to, even if if it's an employee, but they're trying to climb the ladder, or somebody that's trying to lose weight, or it doesn't matter what their goal is, if somebody's trying to run a marathon, I can find common denominators with most people. But people who do have no goals or aspirations, I struggle.
Yeah. I just want to ask you there, Ellie, what, if you can answer this, what has somebody, or piece of advice that somebody's given to you that's really had the biggest impact, and what was that piece of advice?
Oh, biggest advice that's had the biggest impact. Oh, I've had some amazing advice. It's quite funny. It's easier for me to, I don't know what this says about me. It's easier for me to think of all the kind of bad advice I've had, right, and the motivation I've got from proving people wrong. But just one of my favorite quotes, and I suppose it's not advice as such, but this is something that I kind of, whenever I'm struggling with anything, personally or professionally, I always think of a Jim Rohn quote, which is, don't wish it was easier, wish you were better. And I love that, because whatever I'm struggling, if I'm struggling with the 3 kids during lockdown or whatever, I'm thinking, well, why am I struggling with that? What do I need to put in place so that I can best handle the situation should it happen again tomorrow? And I need to become a better mom. I need to develop more patience. I need to make sure I'm stimulating them more in the morning if I want to make sure their behavior is better in the afternoon. So just a silly example, really. But again, I suppose it goes down to the accountability. And yeah, some of these quotes, I just like the Darren Hardy, and the stories and things. There's some real power in there should people choose to tap into them.
Yeah, absolutely. So Ellie, for you, where is your end goal? What does it look like for you? What is that?
Well, it's an interesting one, because I always think when you say an end goal, you're limiting yourself a little bit, because I'd like to think when I achieve this, I'm not going to want to sit on my laurels. But there's a few things. The outlandish one is I would love to be involved with the first hotel in space. I just think that would be, I think when you start really leveling up with your thinking, and you look at what other people are doing in the world, and even some of the stuff that we talk about with business and things like that, it's so small fry compared to the innovation and stuff that's going on there. I'm quite fascinated with Elon Musk and SpaceX and the NASA trips and things like that. So that's a genuine thing that I've got in my head that I'd like, because people even now, it's that thing, if people aren't laughing at your goals, then they're not big enough. Well, people are like, oh, that's sweet, bless her, but she is a bit unhinged. Whereas I just find I just get motivation from that. But the other huge thing for me, the property stuff, I don't know where that'll end, because it, the trajectory we're on is really exciting. But the thing, my biggest passion and purpose is supporting and helping people with the mental health, and inspiring people. I'd love to be able to be recognised as someone that's successful and worthy enough to go and do huge keynotes and do a one-to-many and support as many people as I can, by sort of sharing my story and what's worked for us. And hopefully by that point we'll be, deca millionaires, and we can say, look, 5 years ago we had fuck all, you know. I used my last bit of redundancy money for our property education, and now look where we are.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I want to help as many people and inspire as many people on this planet as humanly possible.
I love that. I do love that. And I love the fact that you said there, your redundancy, you use that to then do something else. But it's again, isn't it? Not looking, you obviously look at things as a return on investment, being able to invest it in something, and I will do whatever I need to do with this to get that return rather than a cost.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah. And
Well, we've done it time and time again. We sold our house, we moved into a rental, we put all the money into our business. Like, we've just backed ourselves 100%. And again, fortune favors the brave. That's not for everyone. That is not for everyone. Would I recommend everyone do that? No. But our appetite for risk is you know, it was mitigated risk, but that's not for everyone.
And I think what you're saying there, that journey, like for myself and Stephen, we literally at one time in our life, our lifeline was a kettle. And people laugh about it, but the kettle was my bath water. The kettle was my water for my meal, which was a pot noodle and a cup of tea. And we've lived in places which didn't have anything, like floorboards, water, nothing. And I suppose it's like you say, that, you know what I mean, what it's having that hunger for it, whatever that is. Yeah. To just keep going, and, you know, knowing with that vision in mind, that goal in mind, that I will get there. That, you know what I mean, this is just the journey that I have to travel to you know, to be where I need to be.
I believe, Gemma, that you have to be a bit tapped in the head to do what we do. And you know, that's the God's honest truth. I think when people hear some of the stories that you share and that I share, they'll be thinking, like, that is just insanity. That's not for me. So when people say they're willing to do whatever it takes, and then 3 months later you never see them again, it's very easy to talk the talk, isn't it? But walking the walk, something entirely different. And all the best people I know are definitely a bit tapped in the head. So I don't know what that tells you.
Yeah, just one last thing, Ellie. I'd just like you to share with the listeners, what would you be able to say is the biggest nugget that they could take away to implement in their business or their life, to have success, whichever, you know, like we talked about, success comes in so many different ways, but what would you say is the biggest nugget that they could take away for that, or you could give them?
I think be fully accountable to yourself. Be honest with yourself as to where you are at the moment. Ask yourself if that's, you know, where you want to be, and look at what you need to do, what steps you need to do to get there. And then you just have to do them, and you have to do them consistently. And you do need to work on becoming the best version of yourself, whatever that means to you. I'm a real true believer that you get out of life what you put in. So you've just got to roll the sleeves up. You've got to surround yourself with the right people that we spoke about. The three main things, I suppose, for me are mindset, relationships, and actually doing the work. You can't go far wrong if you're working in all three of those.
Oh, that's fabulous. Thank you, Ellie. So for the listeners, Ellie, where can the listeners find you to connect with you?
Yeah, so LinkedIn, Ellie McKay, if you search for LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram. I've just launched my YouTube channel, so please subscribe to that. So yeah, all the main, I'm not on TikTok. I've not quite stooped that low yet, but who knows?
I've been practicing some dances with the.
We'll need to do a joint TikTok.
But she keeps them in draft. She said, "You're not going on my TikTok."
Love it. Brilliant.
Yeah. No, that's fabulous. No, thank you for sharing all of your nuggets with us, Ellie, and the time as well. It's you know, the things you've spoken into there, I think, are key major things for success. And it's really great to see your journey as well. You know, how the momentum you're getting and how you're building your personal brand and what it is that you're doing, sharing with everybody. So no, thank you for that.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. It's been a pleasure.
No, thank you. Thank you so much.
See you later. Bye.
Bye.